Hello, my name is Hershey Williams, and I'm joined today by Chris. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi guys, my name is Cris Carvalho and I am an illustrator and character designer. And I work in a lot of things, but right now I'm working on a fan project that it's called GKND Operation Alpha, and I'm also working on a lot of original content for my website, and to improve my portfolio. So it's really great to be here and to talk with you guys, and let's have some fun.
GKND is the very definition of fun, right? It's a
Yeah.
project that was taken away from us officially. It was teased by Mr. Warburton, but unfortunately, Adult Swim or Cartoon Network or anyone they didn't pick it up. So,
Yeah.
what kind of encouraged you to pick up your writer's pen and illustrate this art and write this story for GKND?
Well, I think the best word would be disappointment because
Yeah.
I was there in 2015 when the pitch came online and the whole hype happened, and I was like crossing my fingers and watching the countdown, and then like be super disappointed when nothing happened, and when it was kind of admitted that it was some sort of experiment to see if the fandom was still there and wanted to support the project, and so that
Mm,
Mr. Warburton could pitch the project, which I really thought that it was going to happen because of how much noise it caused back then.
mhm,
So I was really surprised when Cartoon Network decided that it's never going to happen, or it was just not going to happen in that moment.
mhm,
Um, I still wonder why they decided that it wasn't the right moment for that, because that's I think that's how Warburton described it
uh-huh.
in an interview, that it wasn't like the right moment for the spin-off to happen. And I really don't know. I mean, the longer time passes, the the less chances there's gonna be for the show. I hope not, because the
Oh
fandom is
no.
still pretty alive.
Yeah, yeah, not at all. I
I
think the more time that passes, the stronger it gets as a base.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think that that's the reason why I decided to start the project, because I really didn't want the hype to die down. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wanted to, help so that the show could be green lighted somehow. I mean, I know there's a lot of people writing their own fan fictions, their own versions of what they think the show is going to be about. So many headcanons and theories that you can find on Tumblr about, the things that were presented in the pitch. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of were like, I'm an illustrator, and I write as a hobby. So why not I try to, pitch what I think was going to happen in the show, so maybe people can enjoy it in the meantime. And I'm really happy how people have been receiving my idea, because there's always the risk that people will say like, no, that's never going to happen like that. But
Uh,
so far people keep writing to me and saying like, hey, please continue, please don't stop doing the project, because you are
mhm.
the only thing we have right now close to the show. And I'm like, okay, that's so much pressure.
Yeah, it's actually something I want to ask you. When you first started this, what year did you first release your first chapter of this project?
It was probably around 2018.
Uh-huh.
I was actually recently arriving to Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I was unemployed, and we were trying to like adapt to the city, and I kind of was like, bored to death, kind of sad too,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly bored to death. And I said like, I'm gonna start working on my portfolio, and maybe I should just do something else to entertain myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I I was being watching Pepperan when I was working on my portfolio, when the spark suddenly returned to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw like, because some of the things that were happening in Pepperan kind of like resonated with me, and I said like, maybe I should just try something for fun, and start a new fan fiction,
Mm-hmm.
and see if people will like it. And it had a very immediate response. And I took the opportunity to explore more when the Inktober of that year happened. And it's like, I'm gonna do a few pieces of of the Inktober challenge dedicated to this fan fiction that I'm writing.
Hmm.
And even more people kind of got into the story, because they were like, okay, we don't only have like the written story to get entertained, we also have like the visualization of what she's trying to tell. So
Hmm.
it's even cooler.
Yes.
And I kind of keep going, and I started to look to. I kind of been dividing my time between working my portfolio, doing some freelancing, and then continue with the fan fiction. And sometimes I take like long periods of hiatus into writing chapters,
Hmm.
and then come back to it, because I'm like, I know people are kind of waiting for this to get updated. I can't. I don't know. I feel like I have a small responsibility to not stop this because so many people are enjoying it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a huge responsibility. I can't stop.
Well, thank you
And
so much for working on it, because you're right. You putting that illustration with your great writings as well. It is very, very cool to see it and be able to visualize it. And it is exactly how I would have envisioned something like this, when I was growing up, or if I saw Mr. Warburton actually be able to take this to the next level. I think you're hitting the nail right on the head, and I really appreciate what you're doing. It's really, really awesome work.
thank you. I'm so glad people are enjoying it. It's really what it keeps me going.
So I noticed your illustrations are mostly like chapter covers and things like that. Have
Yeah.
you ever considered illustrating an entire chapter, or just because this is like a passion project, you think that's a little bit too much coming up into your.
Well, at first I kind of like tried, like illustrating a few pages, a few comic pages. I think I even published a preview of the next chapter that it's kind of like in a comic format.
Hmm.
And people were like, why don't you do that? I think I have received questions on Instagram asking me, where can I read the comic? I want to read the comic. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a huge work for me. I mean, I have thought about it.
Hmm.
And many of my friends, I even told them, like, have you thought of just illustrating in a few of the scenes, or maybe an entire chapter? And like, well, if the chapters weren't so long, because some of my chapters are super long, I would do it. I probably would do. But like, I just think about the amount of work that it will need, to just draw one entire chapter. It
Yeah.
makes me nervous, but yeah, I would definitely do it um if someday I just get really really brave about it.
All right, viewers. So you heard it here. You see, if you've ever wanted a chapter illustrated, just hold on in there.
Yeah,
It might just happen.
it really could happen. I mean, if people really want me to do it, I'm willing to, like, take the chance and try with at least one of the chapters and see.
Mhm.
I even have thought about doing an animatic. I don't you
Ooh.
because kind of like what they did with the pitch, but in a trailer format, so
Mhm.
that I could show like some scenes that haven't happened yet that could excite people.
Mhm.
And that's actually what I've been mostly thinking recently.
I think
More
that's a
than
really
just
good idea.
doing, yeah, more than doing comic. I really wanted to try doing an animatic, because I thought that would just help a lot to like go around the internet and maybe get more people to
Yes.
see it and to get to know the story.
Mhm. And you just really have a great story there. I actually had a question there. So is English your first language?
It's second. It's my second
Second.
language. Yeah.
Yes. So I was reading all the way, through chapter one. I haven't just finished it,
So
but I was reading
sorry
through
if
it.
you find
No, I didn't
grammatical
even
mistakes.
notice. I did. So until you told me that, I would have never thought that. So you did a really good job with that. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So English is not her first language, but it's still a good read. And like she said, the chapters are very long. Chapter one is great, and I'm reading through it now. Uh, question. What's your
Uh-huh.
favorite episode of Kids Next Door?
From like the original show.
Yes, yes, from the original show. If you had a favorite episode that you always like to think about, or that it just influences your writings, or maybe it's the episode.
Treaty.
It's like, oh yeah, you have one.
Oh, yeah, Operation Treaty is my top one episode.
You're never gonna guess. You're never gonna believe this. But before we started, I had to get my answer right. My answer was also Operation Treaty. Oh no, we.
It's the best episode. I don't know. I just I always kind of like discuss this with a lot of fans. Like they ask me like what was the episode that sparked like the whole idea of the fig, and I'm like Operation Treaty. And
Yeah.
the second one will be Operation Maurice maybe,
Oh yeah.
and perhaps Archive, because there is a lot that I talk about a lot of the of what I think was the origin of the Kids Next Door.
Hmm.
And I kind of always go back to Operation Archive. Also, I know it was kind of like an episode that probably Nigel invented in his head. You know what was all his idea of
Hmm.
how everything started, and probably not has legit. This probably happened,
Hmm.
but I kind of like maybe something about that episode has some ounce of truth in terms of how the whole organization started. So
Hmm.
I take it with a grain of salt, that episode.
That's
But
allowed.
I always go back to it, especially because the whole timeout war and stuff. I always kind of like the idea that there was a war between the kids and the adults.
Hmm.
It sounded epic, and so like I'm gonna take this little part of the episode that doesn't feel too crazy,
Hmm.
and maybe use it for my story. So I always go back to the timeout war in my story.
Yeah, just how you're building up the history of the K&D from the opening sentences and paragraphs from the chapter one is really, I can really see it all in my head. I feel the history, I feel like the legacy that they're trying to uphold and all the traditions that they're trying to uphold and whatnot. And it's all there. And it really has that element that those episodes like Treaty and Maurice and Archive have, is that there's a story behind the scenes. And if you just pay attention and look, it's all come together piece by piece, that there's a bigger
Yeah,
story out there. So seriously, that's a good stuff
thank
there.
you.
Nice choice in episodes.
Especially well, I mean, obviously 3D it's in my top one, but yeah, there the others helped a lot to build up my story.
Okay, so that's your favorite episode. If you could have a number of your very own, what number would you be?
25. It's either 25 or 52 because those are my two favorite numbers.
Okay, okay, that's pretty nice. I can go with those.
And
Uh,
I support the ship too. That's another coincidence that I like it. Number two and number five that they end up together
okay.
at the end of many years later.
See, symbolism. Yes.
Yeah, it's a really big coincidence. When that happened, I said like, I knew it because those are my two favorite numbers. That had to be. They had to end up together.
Do you agree with all the ships they did, like Cookie and Wally? Did that work out how you wanted, or
Oh
did?
yeah, I
Oh
mean
yeah,
it was pretty obvious that Cookie and Wally were going to end together because that was like hinted. The whole show was most.
yeah,
I mean that I think that was like the only ship that was like solid enough to know that was going to be Endgame.
yeah,
2 and 5 was a nice surprise in my opinion because
yeah.
I mean, five could Abby could have been either end up alone and I'm single and be awesome about it,
Hmm.
or she could have end up with so many other characters that she had a lot of good quick chemistry with.
Mm,
But the fact that she ended up with the funny one, the most lighthearted one of the team was
yeah,
like, okay, that was meant to be because
yeah,
she's
yeah.
cool, he's funny, and he makes her laugh. So, um, yeah, I was 100% behind that ship.
I agree when you say it like that. It keeps Abby nice and level, so it does make
Yeah.
sense.
hmm
Do you have future plans for your GK&D project?
Well, right now I have to like finish it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, right now I'm about to update chapter 9.
Hmm.
It's been so long since the last time I updated, and I have, if I have readers here watching this video, I just want to apologize for the long wait. But a lot of things happened in my life, and I just couldn't update it. This chapter it's so long, I actually had to split it in two. Um, because there's a lot of setting that I had to do in order for the big action to happen. And I didn't realize until I kind of sat down and started writing and said like, okay, I kind of had the action scene already written. I don't know why I always do that. I mean, well, maybe it's because I really like to write
It's
the
the
action
most
scene.
exciting part, right?
Yeah, it's the most exciting part, and I kind of like I already have it in my mind. I had like storyboards about it, and I should share more about my storyboards on like I just I don't know why I don't do that. I should be more diligent with my illustration parts. But I kind of like had that done, and I said like, okay, I now I have to write everything that would lead to that scene. How I'm gonna do that, and I start writing, and suddenly the whole chapter, it's like the first part is just 42 pages long, and that's like,
Ooh.
yeah, 42 pages long, and it's just the first part. It's just the setting,
Oh
and
wow.
I kept like cutting stuff. I was like, okay, maybe I should just put this dialogue a little bit shorter. Maybe I shouldn't put this information right now because this could be told in another part of the story. But still 40 pages long this chapter. So yeah, it's just gonna be long. I said like, you know what? It's been so long since I updated that I'm just gonna give everything to the to the readers, so um, they enjoy the ride just as much as I enjoy reading. And so I hope people don't panic when they see the first part, because I know the juicy part is not there right now, but I'm planning on updating the second part right away.
Mm,
It's probably gonna take me a few more days, but it's gonna be, it's not gonna take me months to update the second part.
I
Don't
got
worry
you.
about it.
I, for one, trust the process and can't wait to get to those 42 juicy pages with no cut downs in them. That's
Oh
gonna
my
be pretty
god.
good.
Sometimes I wonder if people get annoyed of how long my chapters are. The problem is that I kind of envision the Galactic Story has a full episodic series.
Hmm.
So I have a notebook with with the end of how I envision it's going to be the ending of
Hmm.
that show, what it's going to lead, what could possibly happen after that story it's finished. And I'm just kind of like filling the few spaces that are in between that I kind of I haven't like really thought about it, but I kind of know the big picture of it. I know where the story is heading. I just kind of like had to fill in the few chapters that will lead to it. And it's really exciting what it's about to come, especially with I don't know if you have read the last chapter and where the story is going. But right now, there is a kind of treasure hunting thing that is going on in the story, where they have to find these special weapons that they are going to use in order to fight against the big bad that it's my galactic emperor number Omega. And that's why the story might take a little bit longer, because there's a lot of pieces that there needs to happen in order for the big battle to arrive.
Hmm.
And I'm excited about it. I have a lot of notes. So many notes.
Got to keep it all
But
together.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why my chapters are super long. I just kind of imagine everything going for episodes and episodes, and things that will be connected with one another, and I have to constantly check what happened in previous episodes, what happened in the show, so that I don't mess up what is canon, and people can continue feeling like the story feels canon, because that was mostly my objective with the story, was like to write a fan fiction, a fan project that could feel legit, that people will
Hmm.
just read it and feel like, okay, I could definitely see this happening in the show. And yeah, it's really a hard work, because I have to constantly check the previous episodes so I don't mess up something. And I actually had to retcon a few things that happened in the episodes, because
Oh
it was
yeah.
like, yeah, but not like heavy stuff. Mostly things like, I'm gonna give you an example. I don't know if it's gonna be kind of spoilery, but in the original show, it was established that Nigel's mom was the first female operative of the seven era of the Kids Next Door.
Mm.
And when I rewatched the episode, I was like, hmm, I mean, is this like an official thing? Really, there weren't any other girls before her? Maybe I could recount this. Maybe for the before the 7 year of the kids next door, there were girls, but it's not registered or whatever. So I
Hmm.
kind of took a little bit of liberty there. But as far as I try to keep it like the closest as possible to the canon, so that
Hmm.
it people can keep feeling like the story it's completely legit. Well, at
Yeah,
least
I
as
think stuff
legit as
like that is
possible.
okay. Small changes like that, that's pretty understandable. I don't think that's taking anything down with it. Uh, So with you wanting to keep the continuity the same as like K&D, that you can go
Mhm.
into this still feeling like you're watching the same thing or reading the same thing. If you were ever, let's say, tapped to help out on like the official GKND project, would you change any of your things coming into it as comparative to the original project? Is there anything you would have done differently, or would you just say, okay, just what I already have here, this is it, and this is ready to go? And just bring that over. How
Like
would you? Mm.
like what compared to the official pitch of
Yes,
Warburton
yes,
or
yes. So like if the official project came back and they wanted
well,
you
I
would feel
would love.
comfortable.
I'm constantly saying on Tumblr, in case anyone from the staff of Mr. Warburton staff is reading me, or because you never know
Of
when
course.
these people are kind of checking the fandom, checking the Twitter. I actually once published like a mini comic and tagged Mr. Warburton, and he reacted to the illustration that I published, and I was like,
Nice.
oh my god, I feel seen. Like the master is just noticed me, senpai noticed me, and yeah, I feel like that, and I'm constantly saying on my social media, like, if anybody wants help with the Galactic Kids Next Door, if ever happens, please write to me. I would really love to get involved. But yeah, regarding your question, before I forget, I don't know if I would change anything from the original pitch. I guess I didn't like finding out in the Rainbow Monkey website that Cree was captured by Galactic Kids Next Door. I
Oh.
kind of feel like, okay, why? How did that happen? And I kind of feel like, okay, if this is going to happen, if this is going to be like in the end game of the battle with Galactic Kids Next Door, I kind of want to know how Cree got captured.
Mm.
And I have my own theory about that. That's going to be my story. And and this is why I keep telling you, like, I try to be as close as possible. I try to maintain as close as possible to the canon, and so that's why in the case of Kree getting captured by Galacticus next door, I have like my doubts about it, but I respect that that's part of the canon, so I'm really not going to try to change that much. The other thing that I would change, I think that I what I didn't like was that we didn't get like one figure that represents the whole Galactic Kids Next Door. I mean, in
Mm.
the pitch, we see that they are operatives that doesn't show in the screens, that they are kind of represented by these alien symbols, and we have
Mm.
this ominous voice that speaks about Nigel and Chad, and kind of like shushes all the other voices that are in Earth's judgment.
Mm.
And I kind of that's the main reason why I created my main villain in the story, because I thought, like, I kind of it gets too big if you have the kids next door fighting this organization and not having like a front face that could be like, this is like father, for example. Father is
Yeah.
kind of like the head of all the adults, and he kind of commands him, and you have like these other small villains that kind of work for him. And I
Mm.
feel like, maybe Galactic Kids Next Door should have like a supreme leader that is the one in charge, and is the one who is deciding that Earth it needs to be decommissioned, or is trying to influence Nigel to decide to decommission the planet. And that's pretty much why I decided to create my villain character in this case, because I thought, like, okay, maybe I know that maybe that was too much for Warburton to show in the pitch, like they didn't want to spoil um, maybe the main leader of the organization, or
Hmm.
maybe they didn't have a clear image of who that that person was going to be. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much why I decided to create my villain character, because otherwise it would be just too massive to fight against an organization that,
I
there are,
understand. Yeah.
it's for my bunch of operatives, and you don't know how it's, how are you going to really defeat them, because you kind of need like a target
Yeah.
in order to have like a force that could work for that.
Yeah, I think it could have been really interesting depending on what they like Mr. Warburton and his team actually did with their decision. Like if they went your route, of course, and said, okay, well, fighting a whole council was kind of hard. You got to learn each individual face, what they do, and why would you want to take
Hmm.
them out. And that could have made a more expansive universe or story longer down the ride, or of course, centralize it into one big bad, one villain, which I actually
Uh-huh.
prefer because it could get kind of hard really to kind of follow a story and why
Yeah.
every single one of those individual pieces can be slightly more important than the last individual piece they just saw, but not quite
Hmm.
as important as any other, anyone else they
Yeah,
meet.
and you can't risk having people get distracted with
Mm,
like too many minion characters going on against them. So yeah, I really thought like, okay, maybe these four mysterious figures that speak in the meeting could be like, the mini bosses before going against the big boss that is that omnivorous voice that speak in the end of the pitch. I don't know. That's what my head kind of went and said like, okay,
mm.
I'm gonna give it a face.
All right.
Ha.
So I've seen your art for Teens Next Door. Growing up, Teens Next Door was the coolest idea. Where's Maurice going on to? What is he a part of? How can I be a part of this before they decommission me? Can you tell me a little bit about your Teens Next Door and your idea behind that?
I can't spoil it too much of it because it's kind of centric in my story.
Mm,
But let's say that the Teens Next Door is pretty much the main reason I started to wrote this story, because this is my pet peeve with the radio show.
mm,
They kind of had this many. I'm not gonna call them plot holes. I'm gonna call them unresolved topics in the story that I was furious we never got closure of it. And I understand that if maybe they were thinking like, oh, we're going to have these topics closed by the time Galactic is next circle happens. But I was like, damn it, why didn't happen in the original show? And the whole thing that was teased with Maurice, um, then what was teased in Operation Treaty,
mm-hmm.
and I just had so many questions. And I was a teenager when the show aired the first time. I
Yep.
think I was around 13, so I'm part of the of the people in the fandom that were a little bit too old when the show aired. And I was so pissed that the teenagers were in the bad guy side. Like I say,
Mm,
like, why are the teenagers fighting against the kids next door and not fighting against the adults? Why is Cree helping father? Why are they helping the adults when we all know that teenagers are the most rebellious status in I mean, they will be the ones who have more pet peeves against the adults. They will be the
yeah.
ones who will be like constantly looking to fight with them, not the
I
kids.
like how they put it in the middle because it's almost like you get to that point where it's like, all these stupid kids and you've been decommissioned. So now the
Yeah, I
kids
mean,
are all
I
just
get it, I
annoying.
get it, I get it.
Yeah.
They're probably like annoyed for the kids next door are annoying. Let's just like give them a lesson, and they are like the bully, and for them. But like the whole concept of the teen ninjas and Cree helping father and helping the rest of the adult villains. I was like, I don't know. I'm not really convinced about this.
Hmm.
So I was super happy when it was hinted that there was like this hating organization that was trying to help the kids next door from behind the curtains.
Hmm.
I was hoping to see Maurice and Chad at some point, like work together,
That would have
especially
been cool.
when it was finally revealed that Chad was helping all along, that he wasn't a traitor.
He was pretty
And
convincing as a trader.
yeah, I was like, oh my, I kind of always root for him to kind of have some redemption arc or something.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was rooting for Cree to at some point like turn over, but we never got that. We never got the reason why Cree betrayed the kids next door in the first place. So I always thought like why that story was never told. Why is she, so passionate about fighting against the kids next door? Why is she so passionate about trying to convert Abby to her side? I thought like maybe the kids next door did something wrong and Cree knows about this and maybe she has a valid reason to fight against them.
Hmm.
Um, I also hate the fact that they introduced Steve so late in the story. I mean, when I always assumed that Cree was the solo leader of the teenagers. So to find out that there was somebody else on top of her, I thought like, wait a minute, why is this character being introduced so late? This is the semi-final episode. There is no more time. Who is this guy? Why? I mean, I think I have the whole fandom has this feeling that this character was a huge missing opportunity, especially because of all the theories that surround Steve. And it's really funny because he only showed up once, and we all love him, and we all like started to theorize who this guy was. Um, I have my own theory about him. I think I have the same theory that everybody has
Hmm.
surrounded the Steve, and that's a character I really love to write in my story. I mean, he has a funny part in the next episode, and that I think people are going to to have a blast in that. I always imagine that if the Teens Next Door sequel, I mean, because here's the thing. I always thought like if the Galactic Kids Next Door never happened, I thought that maybe Warburton could consider doing something else. He could at least explore the idea of the scenes next door.
Hmm.
Um, if anything, if the other plot never, if the other pitch never, move along. So I kind of thought like, this is good. I mean, this character, the Steve, we don't know who he is. We don't know how long he's been the leader of the teenagers.
Hmm.
He kind of knew something was up during the treaty because it was implied that he double crossed uh, Number Infinity.
Hmm.
Because Number Infinity kind of implies that whatever happened in the treaty wasn't what it was planned.
Hmm.
And I always also kind of wonder why the Galactic Kids Next Door wanted the treaty to happen, why they were like behind it, and uh, why Chad kind of like um, try to stop it because you never know exactly what what was the deal with the Galactic Kids Next Door and the treaty. Like, what were they looking for? Why they wanted the teenagers and the kids to join forces? I mean, in my head, that would be really um, a measure against their own wishes and against their own belief because the teenagers are considered adults. But then I always remember that at some point in the story of the kids next door, it was said that there were teenagers among the kids next door until what was it called? I think it was the Teenage Rebellion of 1999. It was mentioned a few times in the show that the teenagers used to be part of the kids. I mean, it was allowed for 16 years old to be part of the kids next door at some point, and then they had to change the rule because of the rebellion that happened in 1999. And it was like, why wasn't this explored in the show? Why?
Maybe at some point before GKND realized they had to decommission Earth, one of their last things that they tried was if we can get a treaty between the teenagers and the kids, maybe they can take care of what needs to be done
Hmm.
under our leadership. Maybe they would have revealed themselves and said, okay, now there's a treaty, you guys can work together and help us
Yeah,
exterminate
maybe
the
they were,
adults.
maybe they were trying to gain some control on them too, so that they could exterminate the rest of the adults. But then, you always have to wonder what was going to happen after the teenagers, just age it and become adults too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how long was that treaty going to last?
Yeah, at some point
I
they
don't know.
become double agents and they're not going to tell anybody because I mean, I just love the way that you wrote how certain characters are just amongst the on the moon base of age, ready to be decommissioned at any point in time, but they're still doing their job and still inducting the kids into,
Yeah.
and showing people around because that's just all they knew and they know before they go
Oh
out,
yeah, I
they
did
want
that
to do
with
that.
number 60. Now I remember. Yeah, that's really dramatic when the story
Yeah,
starts.
you did a good, really, because I really feeling it. Like I was like, oh, this just feels like it's been a long time coming, and now the gang's all here, and they're all getting older, and they're all talking about like what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And it's a constant topic of conversation. They're always talking like, oh, what are we gonna do before getting decommissioned? And they have. I imagine that at some point they would have just accepted that it was going to happen. Abby will probably be more chill about it because she knows that there is something else after the kids next door, and maybe
yeah,
she just doesn't need to get worried about it. I don't know if the others in the team are aware of that. I'm still debating whether she has shared that information because in Operation Treaty, she is the one who tells Nigel that Chad is in their side.
mhm,
And I remember that Cookie and Wally and Hoagie were there when she said that,
mhm,
and I was like, okay, maybe they all know by now that there is this cell of teenagers that are helping the kids next door. I don't know, because otherwise that would have slipped out of her, and she would have to explain things later. But there, who knows? I like to think that at least she knows that there is something else after, and maybe
mhm,
she's chill if nothing happens. I mean, if he at the end gets decommissioned. But deep down, I think she's hopeful that they will continue being friends, and they just have accepted their fate by now,
yeah.
by that age. And except Nigel, he's the only one who obviously is not looking forward for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like when you gave number two, the way that he was gonna go out, setting all these different records and donating all his technology and cars and whatnot. I like to think that Abby thinks that, well, maybe I won't tell these guys because some of them may just really be done and they're really ready to
Uh-huh.
go on with their lives. Just being in the kids next door and helping out after, that age is not for everybody. Is you got to be
Yeah.
really dedicated. And if they
and,
were
and
going to know about it, they would.
and she can't promise them. I mean,
Oh, exactly. That too. You can't
yeah,
promise them.
because Maurice only told her that she kind of fit the profile to
Mm,
be to continue being with them after the kids next door, but she,
mm.
she doesn't know if the others will have the same fate, if the others will be fit to go to for the teens next door. So I like to hint things, and then I like to make her hint things,
Mhm.
but um I just think that they probably don't know yet, and they are starting to discover it right now. Also because I don't think the kids next door are like powerful enough to fight against this threat. So that's pretty much why I thought like
Yeah.
maybe they're gonna have to ask for help. They're gonna need the adults and the teenagers to join them. And this is honestly a problem for everybody. I don't think this is something that only the kids next door should deal with, especially because they are not exactly the targets to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
The targets are the rest of the world. I mean, uh, Chris, Abby's sister, is obviously going to be a target, and it's been hinted in the Rainbow Monkey side that she's going to get captured. So, um, yeah, I really think that this is going to be a moment. If this was a movie, this was going. If this ever, I mean, if it never gets to be a series, this could work very well as a movie
Mhm.
because it would be a story in which everybody will have to join forces in order to fight a common enemy,
Mhm.
and it's just it's really epic to imagine it. I mean,
Yeah.
father having to join the kids next door and the teenagers to join the kids next door too, so that they have to fight together and win this. It's really an epic concept in my head.
I do think
I
it's a
really hope that was
series.
the end game. I really hope that that's the end game of the spin-off.
Me too. I think it is a series that could be opened up with the movie. I think they could open it up with a nice movie and then have like a 12 episode series. They don't have to extend it
Hmm.
to 24, 30-minute, like 22-minute solid episodes instead of half
Yeah,
and halves. And that could really like start a story, expand on it, and then finish it right there. Like,
Hmm.
and it would be pretty great.
Yeah,
So,
and maybe just like leave it open in the end, so that maybe Cartoon Network kind of like gets encouraged to, okay, let's continue this with another spin-off show, or I don't know.
oh no, Cartoon Network, they'll give it the reboot special after
No, no,
that.
no reboot. Don't, no, no, no.
I'm
They're
so
reboot.
sorry. I have to say it. They're gonna. They're gonna they was
No,
like,
I
yeah,
was
that was fun.
no. I mean, my best case scenario would be that, like, if they do the Galactic Kids Next Door, I really would love to see a Teens Next Door show.
Mhm.
But like, I don't know. I don't know if Cartoon Network is will be willing. I mean, we are still struggling to get Galactic Kids Next Door get greenlit righted. So um, yeah, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming too much if by asking a Teens Next Door show.
I don't know. I feel like dreams can go so far. You know, as long as it's what everybody
I haven't
wants.
lose hope. I mean, if I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
lose hope, I would have stopped writing. But I keep I keep thinking that if I continue writing this story and showing this little visualization of the story, I kind of like help making noise, uh, so that this concept, this story, the possibility of the Galactic Kids Next Door gets a real chance, to maybe be considered. And that's pretty much why I keep doing it. So so the hype doesn't die down.
Yes. Okay. Here's a question a little bit off the topic of KND. Do you
Huh?
take commission work at all?
Yes, actually, I have my commissions closed. I've been for a while,
Okay.
and I'm about to open and next after the second part of the chapter is published, because I
Okay.
really don't want to get distracted right now, and I really need to get on with this episode. Yeah, I
Gotcha.
like to call it
Gotcha.
episode.
So,
And but yeah, I'm gonna be opening commissions, and I'm gonna be open to various illustration works, and maybe written works too.
all right then. Well, with that then there's one last question then. Where can people follow you for updates so they can see like, oh, I'm working on this. I think commissions will open at this time. Do you have Twitter, Instagram? We'll have them all linked down below.
Well, I have an Instagram. It's at Kika Chris. I can write it to you later. I also have Twitter. I'm constantly on Twitter. My Tumblr is really focused on the project. I don't think I speak about anything else on my Tumblr. So if people really want to like chat with me about it and send questions, as long as they are not spoilery questions, I answer them. I'm planning on opening a coffee soon, and so that people who wants to support the project like can do it. And that's pretty much where I'm going to be publishing my commissions, and where people will be able to contact me for if they want me to draw something. What else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, yeah, my Instagram and Twitter and my Tumblr.
Got you. All right. So we'll have all of that link down below for anyone who's interested in looking at Chris's work. And we'll also have the link to Galactic Kids Next Door Operation Alpha for your reading pleasure. Also, Chris's art station, where you can go see a ton of amazing art that they have available. I
Yes,
believe, Chris, you are available for character design work if
yes.
anyone's looking for a character designer as well.
Yes, right now I'm 100% available for work too, and it's kind of important.
Very important. So hopefully we can get you some offers pretty soon. So thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for inviting me. It's always fun to talk about Galactic Kids Next Door.
Oh yeah, for sure. We got to do this again sometime. I can't wait to see what you produce for your next chapter, and so I can dive right
Well,
back
if
into
you
the
guys
story.
ever want to talk about fan theories and stuff,
Oh yeah,
I'm open for that. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, duly noted. Gotcha. Alrighty. So thank you for being here today. This has been
Thank you for
Talk
having
to the
me.
Tank, and goodbye to the audience that isn't here at the moment, but they will be
Bye.
here. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Please read the newest chapter.